Hello, winners, and welcome to Two for the Win with your hosts, Nick and Will, where we share international insight and perspectives and a little bit of levity on things such as leadership and mindset on Monday Mindset, travel and the travel business on Wanderlust Wednesday, and sports on Fanatic Friday. Each episode will be between 20 to 30 minutes in length, and please be sure to subscribe, share, and follow Two for the Win. Interact with us, share ideas, spread the word. We certainly appreciate it, winners. And lastly, and certainly importantly, is this episode is sponsored by Nick Menard and Associates with Dream Vacations. Thank you, Nick Menard.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Hi, winners.
Hello, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Here we are, 2025, feeling alive.
2024 was great. 2025 is going to be even better.
Yeah, 2024 left me wanting for more in 2025.
How was your 50 years birthday year?
It was memorable. It was very memorable. So, I reached the half century mark, and I traveled. It was the most I ever traveled in 1 year. Had a lot of new experiences that were really phenomenal. Started taking on some different things. In addition, obviously, the podcast is one, which I'm very excited about, and really a lot of fun, more fun than what I thought initially. Like I thought it was a fun idea, but I've actually really gotten into it, really enjoy it. So no, thanks for asking. But it was a memorable milestone year, birthday year. How about for you?
For me, it was business-wise was fantastic. Of course, the growth of the travel agency that was spectacular this year. So I'm very excited about it. And then having you on board, that's also phenomenal. The podcast, of course, work-wise, very good year also with the teams at the region that I have in my current
Hey,
job.
you got promoted. Congratulations.
Yes, and that's I mean, we are nobody as leader with other teams. So
Right.
I own it to every single person who worked with me. So that's that. And Touch wood was healthy.
Published a book?
That's published a book. You
Yeah,
see,
mindset, my degree.
Exactly. Like I forgot about that part. So that was really some very nice travel and the year strong with a week Vegas, a week Phoenix. So no complaints. And I believe 2025 will be even better.
Yeah, and certainly it all starts and ends with health, and I think you mentioned that, and so very grateful for another healthy year, and looking for that to continue in 2025. Because without health, everything else kind of doesn't really matter as much, does
Absolutely.
it? Yeah. So, winners, we are going, since it's the first Monday Mindset of 2025, we are going to talk about New Year's resolutions in regards to leadership and mindset. So a lot of times, many of you probably already done this. You started setting some goals. You started thinking about what is going to make 2025 even better than what you experienced in 2024. Or maybe it's just mindset aspect of things like that, or it could be leadership aspects. But regardless, we're going to chat a little bit about that. But before we get into one of our more favorite segments of quotes and quips, any high level thoughts you want to share before we jump into that, Nick?
What I'm going to start with is really it's good to set goals, but stick with them. It's more important. I think everybody, and I do believe that now we are, New Year's already started. But when I hear people in November, December starting to talk about New Year resolution, I'm like, why are you waiting a date to start with what you want to accomplish? Why you don't start, even if it's a week, 2 weeks before? It's going to set you for success when the year starts. If you wait for a specific date, I think that it's already a failure from the start. But now that we are in, let's set goals that are attainable, but they are like challenging.
Mm-hmm.
And if you miss it, you will be further than what you were before.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's all about that spirit of 1% improvement daily, right? You get that 1% push. Hint. More to come on that. All right. Anyway, let's jump into quotes and quips. So it's tough to not include somebody like Peter Drucker in our quotes and quips, because he's really recognized pretty universally as being one of the foremost thought leaders on management and management consulting. Obviously he has passed now, but his legacy endures. And so this first quote is from Peter Drucker, And it reads, the indispensable first step to getting the things you want out of life is decide what you want. Thoughts on that quote?
Yeah. Having ideas, it's great, but until you understand exactly, you put that on paper, or you just make it real for yourself in your mind, the universe is not going to work in your way. It's not going to help you. So I think it's great to know a lot of things, but until you go specific in what you want, and I will give an example on that. I think I even shared that in one of the previous podcast episode, but we are almost at 50 now, so
Yeah.
so it's a refresher is always good. But I used to have a mentor who said, Nick, one of my goals when I was in my 20s, when I was starting, like the leadership, like my leadership journey, it's like, I want to buy a new car. It was not a fancy car. I want to have a new car. Um, and he said, okay, what car? What model? Well, I want this. What color? How do you see the interior? And he was like, he was, going deeper into detail. Why? For one reason and one reason only. So my mind will be working on visualizing exactly what would be what I want.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what? I got the car, I think, a year and a half later. But it was in my mind. Every morning when I got up, I knew exactly the car I want, the color I want, the style inside that I wanted, and the options. And I think that he helped me a lot at that moment to understand that having a goal is good, but be very specific and intentional about what your goal is all about.
Mm-hmm.
It's getting you closer from getting actually what you are wishing to attain. So when I hear this quote, it can go different direction, but that's the direction I think of more. Yeah, just do something and stick with it and be very, very specific.
Yeah, I love that. And I think, as you were sharing that, there's a couple of thoughts that popped into my head. One is I've been re-listening to Dennis Waitley's book about the science of winning, the psychology of winning, sorry. And when you're talking about visualization, basically, a lot of people I found, and I was even guilty of this when I first started learning about trying to manifest or have affirmations. But it's one thing if you just say it, whether it's internal or verbally, but it's another when you actually not only visualize it, like what you're talking about, but actually incorporate all your emotions. So, like, say, for example, I'll say something like, I enjoy a wealth of abundance. Well, it's one thing to visualize having a lot of money, and it's another thing to kind of, say it. But if you actually feel it, so like when I say I enjoy a wealth of abundance, I'm not only visualizing it, I feel the texture of the stacks of $100 bills in my fingers. I smell money. Money has the smell, right? You smell it. And the better, and I'm not saying I'm great at this, but I'm on a journey of getting better at it, because I think when you incorporate all your senses into your visualization and your goals, you can actually manifest it faster, because your mind cannot differentiate between reality and a dream or a vision. Like it doesn't differentiate between it. It sees it the same. So the more that you can incorporate your senses into those things, it just makes it more real for your mind. And then you kind of open your eyes to different things that'll attract to make those things happen.
I love that. I never thought about the sense, but actually it's true. That's really, really funny. When you said the abundance of wealth,
Mm-hmm.
what's the first thing that came into my mind?
What's that?
Donald Duck jumping, when I was a child, like super young. It's probably like before 10 years old. Like you have that Donald Duck thing show on TV, and then you have Donald Duck jumping into the money and coming out of the money.
Yeah, that's like the ball pit, but the money pit.
That's exactly what I was visualizing. It's funny how your mind works.
Oh, yeah.
30 years later, 40 years later almost.
Yeah, mine is always, I always had this vision of if I ever hit the lottery, I would take all the money and I would just throw it up onto the bed and then jump onto the bed and be like swimming in money on the bed type of thing. But anyway, so
2025 just started. You learned something more about us already.
Yeah, and they're probably like, okay, maybe we didn't need to know that.
I think it's funny.
Yeah,
We all have like images when we talk about certain subject.
Yeah.
So it's good to share.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it's important. So I appreciate you bringing that up. The other the quip is, so let's pivot to the quip, and this comes from Reader's Digest by somebody named Joey Adams. So thanks, Joey. Don't know who you are, but appreciate you with the following. And
you're welcome on the show.
Yeah. This is a little tongue in cheek, but it says, "May all your troubles in 2025 last as long as your New Year's resolutions."
Well, again, that says a lot. It's the analogy of the gym.
Yeah.
January 1st, I take my my membership. I go to the gym, and then you have the first 2 weeks. The gyms are packed.
Yeah.
And then the next 2 weeks is going down. In February, you have the same people as last year.
Yeah.
So it's exactly the same thing. And that's literally the point that I want to make on this podcast. And I'm sure you do. You're very similar. Don't set a million goals. Set a couple that you really want to achieve. Visualize it, send it, and go for it. Like, have a clear objective and don't waver from it until you reach it. And when you reach it, guess what? New ones.
Right.
It's okay. That's the way the world goes. What about you?
For me, I came across a video on my feed from Brian Tracy. Many people now probably don't know who Brian Tracy is because, gosh, I don't know if he's still alive or not, but he's definitely
Probably not.
a lot older.
Yeah.
But Brian Tracy is somebody who I followed quite a bit when I started my career in sales. I think most of our winners know who follow the podcast. Up until my recent organization, I was always in sales or sales leadership. And I always appreciated his approach on selling. Anyway, I came across this video, and I'm actually thinking about incorporating it into our team kickoff. So if any of my teammates are currently listening to this may end up being redundant. But what he talked about is when I meet somebody new and we're working together, if they don't do the following, I don't invest any more time with them. Because if they can't even do this, I'm not going to spend the time. And he says, what you should do is list out your top 10 goals you want to accomplish in the year. So you write your goals and you have the dates next to it. And then he's like, but you write it in the present tense, kind of affirmative, like action oriented. So if you have a goal of, I want to lose 15 pounds, he would suggest write the goal as, I'm enjoying losing weight so I can lose 15 pounds to get to X weight by this date, right? Anyway, so you list those 10 goals. Then he says, review that list of 10. One will definitely jump out at you, if not more. Circle that one. Then create a new sheet of paper and list that one goal. And then now start detailing all the things that you need to have happen in order to make that goal become reality. So you list all the actions and don't worry about chronological or whatever. Just brain dump all that stuff. Then he says, go back to that list and now make it a checklist. So if you had like a number of things, like one of my goals for this year is to follow in your footsteps and to publish a book. So, okay, if that's one of the things I want to do, okay, how do I reverse engineer that and build those milestones and then break it down into like a Gantt chart or to a checklist and make it happen? And he goes, if you do that, he goes, I've never met anybody who did that who wasn't successful and made their goals come to fruition. And it's because of just what you're saying. You narrow the focus. And it's kind of like that first quote from Peter Drucker. Decide what you want. There's a lot of nice to haves. Like I could list 50 nice to haves that I want to have in 2025. But, and this is one of the questions I was thinking of when we're chatting about, let's talk about this topic for the episode. Like if we met a year from now, what is the one thing that when you achieved it, you would say this year is a success? And I think it ties into Brian Tracy's like narrow it down to that one goal and focus on that.
I love that. I may incorporate some of it also in my kickoff.
I have it in my little book. I actually wrote it out. That's what I did yesterday, actually, is I'm like, because how many times, I don't know about you, you're a little better at this than I am. I'll come across a lot of stuff, But then do I take the time and put it into action? Because life gets to be distracting, and I allow it to distract me. So I'm not blaming anything other than myself. But I'm like, no, enough of this. Like I'm actually gonna do this. So I saw that feed 2 weeks ago, and I texted it to myself. And then
Smart.
yesterday, I came back to it, and I'm like, all right, that's it. I'm actually gonna sit down right here, right now, and list it out. And I listed all 10. I circled the one, and then I started on the list. And now I'll build upon it because I got started. I got the momentum, like we talked about, getting
Yeah.
that little momentum. And so anyway, yeah.
You know the key of momentum? Stay in momentum.
What's that?
Stay on momentum.
Oh, stay
the
in
key
momentum.
of momentum
Yeah,
is
yeah.
stay in
Oh,
when
yeah,
you're in
yeah.
momentum, don't leave it.
Yes.
Don't leave it.
Yeah.
Because that's the best part about your journey is when you hit the momentum. And what the problem is, we got a little bit off track here, but I learned that the hard way in my 20s. I always wanted to reach a certain point in my career when I was developing teams. And I was working so hard to reach that point. And then I finally reached it. Big dinner party with the team. We had a lot of fun. Guess what happened? A month later, I dropped lower than I were before hitting a month before reaching that milestone. And I think that was a big mistake. And it was a lot harder to get back on this.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, when I reach it, I directly set new goals and I continue on that wave. And I think it's important that instead of stopping when you reach it, just it's going to be so much easier from there to go to the next one because you are in that wave of momentum. So that's another thing that I thought about this. But I love this. The only thing I would add, and I'm not saying you didn't do it because knowing you probably will do it, but for you and for your team, when you check box all those things, celebrate.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Because otherwise, what's the point? Something I would add is you create a list of 10 and then you circle what's important. You go to page number 2 and you drill through all those. And then when you finalize one of those 10, have an idea about how you're going to celebrate for those.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's a little one, high five, having a drink after work or whatever it is. But the big one, the one that are for you, for example, I mean, I was not aware of your book yet, but I was aware that you're thinking about it, but I was not aware that your book was going to be like something for this year. And I know you will achieve it and it's going to be great. I will be the first buyer, the same way you were the first buyer for mine. And so the book is a big one because it takes a lot of dedication, a lot of time, and a lot of steps. But when it's out, it's a huge achievement. So have a huge thing you want to do. Like you want to do, I don't know, like or a trip or buying something you always wanted to buy, or go watch your Green Bay Packers lose a game somewhere. But have like something that you want to do, but you need to achieve it in order to go do this. And I think it's gonna be even helping you even more when you have those roadblocks, when you have those time like you feel like nothing else comes out, from the pen or from the keyboard.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that will also help. Hey, come on, the game is so close. I will reach it. And then when you have it, you go to the game, and the game will be the best experience because you work so hard to get it. Even though you can buy it tomorrow if you want, but it's just sentimentally and psychologically, it's very important to attach certain celebration for certain goal, depending how big or small the goals are.
Totally agree. Like delayed gratification, and that's something that I got away from. As I was able to achieve, some level of success in my career, is I started pivoting towards instant gratification. Oh, if I want this, I can just go buy it. Or if I want to have this experience, I'll just go make it happen. Versus, like, I was raised in an environment, my parents did not have much money at all. They struggled mightily. And one of the silver linings from growing up in that environment is they only paid cash for things, and they would save. So they used to have what they called Christmas checking accounts or Christmas savings accounts at the bank my mom banked at. And every time they got a check, they would put a little bit into the Christmas account, and they built it up over the year. And then when it came time for shopping, that was the money they had. That was the budget. Or if you wanted to buy something outside of being through Christmas, they had to save for it. And as a kid, at times I got very frustrated by that because you want it now, especially as a kid, right? Or impatient, impetuous at times, and you want things now. But there was a beauty and a merit to that delayed gratification, like what you're talking about. So the small win that I did when I completed that top 10 list is my team bought me a box of Rocky Patel #6 cigars. So my small win celebration when I completed that list is I went out to my gazebo, I lit up a cigar, and then instead of putting on music, what I usually do, and I usually got EDM because that's how I like to roll, instead I put a YouTube video. And the YouTube video that was playing while I was smoking the cigar was how to dictate a book. Because I feel like with my life right now, and that's why I was really impressed with your discipline to type it all out. I think for me, at this place in my life right now, I want to dictate it. So I was getting tips on how to dictate it and then how do you translate voice to text and do all that. And I actually got halfway through the first chapter. So I'm already halfway through chapter number 1 on
Congrats.
it. Now I know there's going to be a multitude of edits and stuff like that. But at that point, that's like when you can get the ghostwriter and having good advice and stuff. So it's just to your point about momentum, just get started. Do something daily, but if you miss a day, give yourself grace. And I think that's the difference between why I feel I'll share something personal and vulnerable, like on my journey to get into better shape. In the past, I would slip up and it would send me on a thing where instead of just eating bad one day, now I'm eating bad multiple days in a row. Instead of missing a workout one day, now I miss out workouts multiple days in a row. And I've even done that during this recent stretch, but what's past is past. Don't dwell on it. Today is a new opportunity. Get back on it. And I think that's the difference between me today and me, say, a year ago, is I don't allow one bad day to now become a trend and to steamroll. It's today's a new day, get back on it and try to build momentum on that part. So if you're like me and you sometimes are your own worst enemy and you tend to do things that at times impede the momentum, don't dwell on it, set it aside, get back on the horse, so to speak, and move forward today.
Love it. I think thank you for sharing. That's very powerful. I believe that personal stories are the most powerful for all, and also can be relatable for winners listening. So that's great. No, I agree with you. I love the fact that you think about a goal, which is writing a book, and you thought about a better way for you to actually achieve that would be to narrate it. Narrate it and then make it on a paper somehow, like with the system that are now available for us, and then improve it from there. But I love that. I love that because it's very important. Sometimes you don't think about the thing you don't know.
Yeah.
So the best way to learn, no, this position with YouTube, with Audible, with everything, you can literally get information about anything you need. So the fact that you took the steps to actually figure that out and then enjoying your cigar after celebrating the fact that you finish your list, and still on a momentum wave, like looking at options to get to your big, I suppose, your number 1 or top 3 bets of the year. Well, it showcased that you are really willing, you're intentional about your goal, and like the quote in Quip said, like be intentional. I mean, figure it out exactly what you want and work for it. And I think that's why you're gonna be successful, and we're gonna celebrate on the podcast with our winners when the book is out. So that's great. That's fantastic. I love
Thank
that.
you.
I love that.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think, and it's not about, I know you believe this as I do, it's not about working harder. It is about working smarter. And one of the things I noticed for myself is I work really well in bursts. So if I set aside a block of time, whether it's 2-3 hours, and I'm really focused and I'm able to do deep thinking or deep work on it, I'll accomplish way more than if I try to just spread it out over 8-9 hours, because I find that I in some ways I'm more easily distracted now. I have different thoughts in my head. There's family things, there's work things, there's other things, and it's like, no, but if I can get that little window and really commit. Maybe it's only 30 minutes, maybe it's an hour, but whatever it is, to our winners, find that block of time for just you and limit your distractions. Be able to focus in on whatever it is you want to focus in on. Hopefully it's something towards achieving your goal, but it could be whatever. Maybe you just want to educate yourself. Maybe you just want to meditate. Maybe you just want some quiet time, but make the adjustments to find that block, and you'll find that your productivity and your mindset health, your wellness will exponentially increase as you do that.
Personal development. I mean, how can you have growth if you don't do personal development? So that's key. And a lot of companies, I mean, for business owners, you have to allow yourself to have those times. But even when you're an employee, like I know a lot of companies who are actually suggesting people to have those personal development time built within their calendar. And it's going to actually help them, like get better at their job. Mm-hmm. And some company don't, but I know a lot of company who do that. So yeah, allowing time, I think it's a great advice. But yeah, we could talk for a long time about things we are able to, how to get better in our mindset and how to actually influence things better. But I hope that this episode helped you, set the stage for a very successful and powerful 2025.
Yeah, well said. And to our winners, take this time at the beginning of the year. If you haven't wrote out some goals, whether personal, professional, do it. And whether you use the exercise that we talked about earlier with Brian Tracy, or you do something else, there is a power in not just verbalizing a goal, but verbalizing it publicly. Like I just shared some, you just shared some publicly, but then writing it down. Because when you write it down, it's almost like it embeds it into your subconscious, and it makes it more tangible, mm-hmm. if you will. So use both, but ultimately use what works best for you. But take the time, and don't be a ship without a rudder, where you have all these nice to haves. You're talking about 2025, and you're just kind of adrift at sea, and you're going to go wherever the wind takes you. There is a merit to going with the flow, but every ship needs a rudder. And for you, that rudder could be, what is the critical few things that if we met a year from now, winners, what would have to be true in order for you to say this past year was a success for you, however you define success, whether that's personal or professional. But have that crystallized in your mind, written down, visualize it, incorporate your senses. And I promise you, if we were able to meet a year from now and discuss it, more of those things would either be true, accomplished, or you'd be further along the road to accomplishing it than what you would if you didn't do it. So hopefully you find that useful, take some action, and I certainly hope 2025 is the best of health, wealth, and happiness for all our winners.
Yeah, I have one thing, thank you, Will, to close the loop here. Mm-hmm. One thing that I would also suggest based on what you just said is have someone, anyone, maybe it can be your spouse, it can be your parents, your children, best friends, or someone that you trust. Share your biggest goal with that person, because speaking out what you also want, so there's writing down, but speaking out with someone will elevate the accountability that comes with it. So I think that's very important, that we all need accountability. Nobody mm-hmm. is perfect. Nobody is a robot that can. So dare to share, and it will help you during your journey. And if you have a person that can also push you, or maybe challenge you, or ask you, how is it going with your list, or is it going with that goal? Be vulnerable enough to be able to share, and then that person will help you, automatically. Just the accountabilities will be very important.
I love it. Dare to share with your accountability buddy. There it exactly. Is. There it is. I think that's the title of the episode.
There you go.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. And appreciate your vulnerableness, and hopefully our winners do as well. And again, thanks as always, winners. So this wraps up today's episode of Monday Mindset. Again, please be sure to subscribe, share, and follow. 2 for the win. Spread the word. share topics you want us to cover. If you have quotes or quips you want us to incorporate, please send those to us. And again, thanks as always to Nick Menard and Associates for sponsoring today's episode. So that'll wrap up our first Monday Mindset of 2025, and look forward to seeing you winners on Wednesday when we have a Wanderlust Wednesday episode. In the meantime, take care and best of success in 2025.
Bye, winners.
Bye.